Anyhow,
Ready to go? Come on.
hello
Hello.
and welcome to Planet Marzipan, the Fish and Marillion podcast. I'm Meza, and here's my mate,
Craig Houston.
Hello, welcome to Planet Marzipan podcast. I'm Meza. I'm here with my rather strange friend,
Craig. Hello. Good evening.
and we have returning guests. We have some of our familiar faces on the pod with us today. We welcome back Mikie Kay,
Hi guys.
James Levey,
Good evening.
hello, and Mark Marillion Kennedy.
Evening all.
Now then,
Good.
how are we, chaps? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Good,
well,
good.
you've already seen the title of the podcast, so we're here to discuss the first album of the Castle years, This Strange Engine. And I'll read the Wikipedia entry and then I will ask Craig the question I always ask Craig. So bear with me for a minute. This Strange Engine is the 9th studio album by the British neo-prog band Marillion, released in April 1997 by the Castle Communications imprint Raw Power. It was the first of 3 recordings that Marillion made under contract with Castle after being dropped by EMI Records in 1995 and before eventually going independent in the year 2000. The album was recorded in the Racket Club in Buckinghamshire, England between August and November 1996 and was produced by the band themselves. According to Wikipedia, the album was released in the UK on the 21st of April 1997. How old were you, Craig?
I was the ripe old age of 24.
Ooh.
Yes. And it was quite an important year, 97, for me and Mikey, because Marillion just didn't happen to go independent themselves. Me and Mikey went independent because that's the year that we set up our now deceased business. When we had the Cakey Empire, we launched that at Christmas 97. So
It
was
was,
a
and
year of independence.
TSE was very much the soundtrack of that, wasn't it?
It was that and Ice Cream Genius as well.
Yes, very much so.
And also the first lot of the Best of Both Worlds, the remastering thing, yeah. So that was what was getting played when we were kind of decorating out the unit and painting and setting it all up. And the poor customers, all the grannies coming in, having to put up with us lot.
Well, there is some... Wikipedia does claims that the album was released in Japan on the 9th of April. I'm not sure about that.
I don't know. I wasn't over there at the time.
Yeah, but 12 days before it came out in the UK. It's very strange. I don't know.
It might have been. There was like a Pony Canyon version.
Yeah,
or
there was.
wasn't there?
Yeah. But I don't remember.
Didn't the Japanese one have 2 extra tracks?
It did, but we'll come on to that.
Okay.
Ooh.
Come on to that.
They do have a longer lead time, or surely they do seem to. There's a couple of them. Wasn't Radiation released in Japan earlier as well, or am I just making that
I mean, I stand to be corrected. I'm sure at the time, if I'd known it was out 12 days before, I'd have tried to get a Japanese copy because you can get one in that. Yeah. I've got one, but I don't know.
But no, you wouldn't have, because it. Then, if memory serves me right, Mikey, didn't we end up with a promo copy of TSE like a good while before the album came out? Because there was a lot of promos.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah,
there
we
was
got it before.
There was a lot of promos knocking about. I got one from a friend of mine in Aberdeen, Stuart Mitchell, but he wouldn't give us the disc, so I had to go and meet him at work, borrow the disc, drive home, copy it onto a mini disc, then drive back and give him it back. So
yeah, because I'm positive that we got it. I think we both got a copy. It didn't have a cover. It was just
the disc.
Yeah.
The promo is just the
CD.
Just the disc,
I think we got it from. I think it might have been Old Hits in town.
Might have been. Might have been.
But it was all such a long time ago.
It was. It was. So there was no single to precede this album, was there? Because the single came out
It came
after.
out afterwards, and
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
hold of it was like hunting down camel poo in the Antarctic.
Well,
It was almost as bad as trying to get hold of You Dinosaur thing. I think there's about 3 copies in the whole of the UK.
I'm
So
still pissy about that.
the benefit of having James here is he's got access to the unforeseen archives or the unseen archives. What was hanging around, James, from the end of AOS leading into TSE?
Most of TSE.
Nothing.
Funnily enough, the first jam on the AOS sessions had TSE lyrics on it,
Right.
because I think H wrote or came up with the stream of conscious TSE lyrics in the middle of '94. So when they came around to start AOS, that was very much in his conscious and wanting to put it in there, and it sort of had a lot of different music. But I think most of the starting points of the songs from TSE, apart from One Fine Day and the majority of Estonia, had its first airings during the AOS sessions.
Right. Right.
So I think what happened, if I'm get my dates right, is after they did AOS, obviously where we're going to talk about the H potentially being part of Tommy and stuff like that. And the band knew they had a 6-month window, so Brothers went off and did Wishing Tree, and then the Tommy thing never happened, and H went on and did Ice Cream Genius. So in the beginning of '96, I think it was Pete and Mark, maybe Ian as well, sort of started going through some of the AOS DATs and the writing sessions and basically compiling good starting points of what they could work on when they come back together. And TSE was a big part of that, the song. And then they started around on the lead up, and I think, and just after the Made Again tour.
Right.
That's when they first started jamming. And then H went off and did Ice Cream Genius. And I think, as Mark said on the documentary of I think they basically went over to Pete's garage again and or Pete's house, and started putting it together, but didn't get very far. And there's lots of tapes of just them jamming and trying little bits and pieces. And then everybody came back together a little bit in May, a little bit in June, but really the last week of July '96 is when they started. And they didn't, from July all the way through to first week in September is when they arranged the songs. So they didn't do any jamming. That was purely arranging the songs. Started recording in September, mixed in November into early December, and done and dusted.
Bish bash boosh.
Yeah.
Bish bash bush.
Quite quick compared with how they work now, isn't it?
Just slightly.
Understatement, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Should we talk about some music?
Oh, go on then.
Why not?
Okay. Opening track then. Man of a Thousand Faces. It's a Helmer lyric, isn't it? As a lot of the album is.
As H says, what the flip is all that about?
It's all Joseph Campbell, isn't it? And Hero with a Thousand Faces. And,
Yep.
you know, Ulysses to Luke Skywalker and all that. And
it's a cracking opening tune, and it's great live. And it's the funny thing is when I first heard the album, with it being quite acoustically based, it was, I wouldn't say it was jarring, but it was a definite like change from what had gone previously, and I would say a welcome change, because I don't know if I thought at first some of the songs were a bit lightweight compared to what had gone previously, but Man of a Thousand Faces, the track itself, is an absolute stormer.
Mikey?
Yeah, I love it. I agree with Craig. It was a little bit at the time. Is this the Marillion we're used to? Because it was quite a fundamental change, but very refreshing, and clearly the start of Marillion 3.0 as the Castle years play out. For me, he says, holding up what I have here in my hands, the Man of a Thousand Faces CD single, is I actually prefer the extended version. I like the cold open on the on the album, but when you hear the extended version and it's got just the piano and Steve singing, I think that would have fitted better on the album.
Okay.
Personally, I just prefer that version of it.
What I find actually on the extended version, I don't know whether you think it, but it's got an almost start of Anarachnophobia feel. You know how with Between You and Me with the keyboard and that intro like that, it's almost thematically like that. So they didn't use it there, but let's go back to do something like that for the start of Anorak.
Yeah, just because the extended version with it starts with the piano and MH's voice, it's a little less, oh, this is acoustic, if you get my drift. It doesn't just open with the acoustic guitar. So it's a nice gentle lead in, which I think goes into the song beautifully. My only gripe, which has always been my gripe with this song, is the ending. With that noise that sounds like they've got it off one of them old key rings that we used to have in the 90s. With them little sound effects on. That was my only gripe. But it doesn't detract from the song. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
James?
I'm on the other camp on this. I'm glad they dropped the keyboard intro to it. I think it starts nicely with the acoustic guitar because it is that much of a change. You know, going from AOS where you had all the lead up of the sort of, which we talked about previously, the sort of movie thematic opening to Gazpacho, to this is just like it's there, and the acoustic guitar, and it's like, okay, we're into, as you say, Marillion 3.0, we're into something different, and I like that opening. I think it's a good song. I really like it when they play it live. It seems to be a favorite. You know, when they do the sort of the H pitches his voice and goes into Mark's keyboard, that's a lovely moment.
Yeah.
And the sort of rolling toms as they go into the second half of the song. It's a really, really good song, and it's got better as they've played it live as it's gone through. So yeah, no, good one for me.
Yeah, it's got a great hook to it though, hasn't it? You know, it's lyrically, it works. It works as a single as well. It just love it. Sorry, Mark, go for it.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Love the acoustic intro. Great lyric if you can make sense of it. I'm not a huge fan of the end bit. Never have been. But yeah, other than that, great. And the one thing I remember about it, I went to see them in London when they did 2 nights at Shepherd's Bush, and I took my sister, and she'd never seen them before, and they opened with "Man of a Thousand Faces," so and H walked on and started singing with just with Rothers, and you could almost see her jaw hit the floor because she'd never heard anybody sing like that before, So yeah, great.
Brilliant. I'm with James. I think it's a brilliant live track. I love the ending. It's great for singing at the top of your voice in the audience. And I think, as you guys have said, it sets a tone for a different Marillion. It was a bit of a shock to me, if I'm honest. The whole sort of lightweight feel of the album was a bit of a shock. But I think it's a great first track. I like the 12-inch version, Mikie. I like the extended version, but probably because I've not heard it that much, if I'm honest. I think that gives it something. It's just a bit of a rarity in the way that the Spiral remake of Great Escape is nice to hear because you don't hear it very often. But it's a fantastic opening track. It really is.
And it should have been a hit. But
Well,
it
would
never could have.
would that have ever been a hit? It would never have got on the radio, would
Not
it?
helped.
The
radio edit is the most pointless thing in the world. It's
awful.
Shocking.
Awful. Yeah.
But it's one of those things because do you think back in the time, the unplugged and the acoustic stuff was very, very popular. It was.
Well, do you want to know what was at number one that week?
Go on then. Go on.
Bop by Hanson.
Oh, jeez.
But
and that's why I didn't get anywhere.
Yeah, in the top 10, you had John Bon Jovi, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Radiohead, and Smashing Pumpkins. So it was quite a rocky atmosphere going on at the charts at the time.
Yeah.
Should have done Accidental Man.
But as well, when the single came out, though, it was only limited to like I think they only pressed was it like 1 or 2 thousand copies. That it was really like say camel dung in the Antarctic, so it was not easy for people to pick up. So it was never like mass produced. So
I got my, I
hey
think my
ho,
copy of our in our price in Aylesbury when our price was open, or Record House, because the guy used to have get all the sort of limited singles, and if he knew what you would like, he'd try and order a couple of copies. That's why I picked mine up.
Yeah.
Do you want to know the?
Good old
Sorry, go on,
track
John.
records come in
good
your.
old track.
I mean, I didn't. John, you were saying you thought it was quite different or whatever. I mean, this was when I was starting to get back into them, so I didn't have any expectations or anything, or so
I really liked AOS. I mean, Brave was, we've talked about Brave till the cows come home. It's still my favorite album by the band, and AOS is right up there as well. So this was a bit of a strange one after that, I found. Over time, it's really grown, as we'll talk about. It's really grown, and my feelings on it have changed a lot. The gigs at the time were fantastic.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
the same. I was a bit in my fallow Marillion period of sort of going to, I think, been to uni, come back from uni, was starting to work, but was going on, seeing different bands, different music, and so it was, and as we said, the single Hen's Teeth, and finding the stuff out where the album was, and what's going to be released. I think I wasn't chasing as hard as I would then do as I got back in with Anorak. So I'm with you on that one. It was sort of a bit of losing touch with the band.
yeah. I mean, I didn't. I still went and saw them a lot. We'll talk about Redcar, I'm sure, at some point
Oh
in,
yes.
in this podcast. And they were still a big part of my musical tastes. It just you combine that with the cover, the sort of more acoustic feel with the brownness of the cover. It's just very different to what they've done before. But anyhow,
Do you want the Craigopedia entry for Man of a Thousand Faces?
yes, please.
Do you know
Go
why
on
it's
then.
called the early version was called the Monkey Song?
No.
Because if you've heard the early version on the remaster, the box set, it reminded H of Last Train to Clarksville, and
Okay.
that's why it was
Ah,
called the
Oh,
Monkey
the
Song.
monkeys, yeah.
Yeah, because if you listen to that actual riff on the guitar that Brothers played, you can go, oh yeah, because
Yeah.
he started singing on it. I don't know when they were jamming around,
Oh,
and
you've put it in my head now.
yeah,
mm,
and the version that was used, which was written, I think, the day after. So the actual acoustic guitar version was the original jam was again in the OOS session, was called the Counting Crows version because it reminded H of Mr. Jones.
Right. Yeah.
don't
Okay.
There you
panic.
go.
I don't like it up them.
Okay. Track 2, One Fine Day.
Bang, straight into Rothers. That's the one thing that I always think with it. There's no like slow intro or any kind of preamble. You've got Rothers there straight away. Yeah, and it's a song that I felt I wasn't that impressed with originally when I first like listened to the album, but it's really grown on us over the years. And I think good lyric, great guitar work off Rothers, and yeah, it's a top tune of mine.
Mikey?
I've always liked this one. I think it's got a wonderful arrangement to it. My favorite part of the song is I think it's about halfway through where it goes into this Eleanor Rigby style string sound. It's just fantastic. And like
Yeah.
Craig says, Rother's guitar work on it's absolutely amazing. Liked it then, love it now, still. Yeah, great song.
Do you think
James?
it's an underrated tune?
James?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's for me, it's one of the hidden gems of the album. Um, it's sort of it's a really nice lyric. It's the music, yeah, sort of coming in with that Brothers solo, which is repeated later on. Yeah, no, I really like it. It's sort of not one I've seen live many times. I don't think they've played it that many
Not played it
times.
much, no.
No, but it actually is. It's an uplifting song. Um, in parts, I agree with Mikey when it drops into Ella Rigby. That's a nice break, and coming back out on the other side of it with the solo. Yeah, no, really good song.
Mark?
Yeah, I love it. It's like James says, I think a hidden gem. It's love the lyric. Was lucky enough I got to do the screen video for it as well, so I've heard it
Yeah, cool.
quite a few times. So um yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I think it's one of the best things on the album for me. Um, it's a little beatly at times, but
Yeah,
it's no
very.
bad thing. It's no bad thing. Cracking chorus, brilliant song.
It was an accident
Was it?
when,
Yeah.
yeah, when they, because if you've got the making of TSC,
Hmm.
it's got hardly anything. I don't think there's anything on apart from the demo for One Fine Day on it because it was actually on um, the DA88 tapes, and we may get into this when we talk about the box set in a bit. But what they were doing is when they were working on Accidental Man is an opposite song because the choruses are low and the verses are high.
Yeah.
They were trying to go through different versions of the chorus, trying to find um the verse, trying to find a different way of going into it. And Rother started playing, and again, this is on the Blu-ray, started playing a different riff. If you listen to it again with Accidental Man in the back of your head, you can go, oh yeah. And then H started singing the lyrics. And so they was like, and everybody went, oh, this is good. And then they worked out the chorus, and then they went back and changed the music again. That's how One Fine Day came together. So it was one of those happy accidents.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, the next track isn't a happy accident. The lyric was written by Mr. Hogarth about the fans, and it's 80 Days.
It's okay. I've never disliked it. It's an interesting upbeat song, and it's the sentiments there, the heart's there with it. And it was entertaining on the tour to see how often Mark Kelly would feck up the keyboard solo on it.
Ooh.
Oh, come on. Every time. Every time. It was all good fun. There's
Funny, you
no
didn't
kind of thing.
mention that when we spoke to him a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
You didn't talk about it once, did you?
Oh, come on, he did.
Ah,
He admitted, he would admit it himself. But because it was very fiddly for him. Very fiddly. But no, I do like the song. I've never disliked it when I've heard it. Yeah, it's heart's there for yeah.
Mikey?
Um,
Oh,
good.
it's one of them flip coin moments for me. I can listen to it and enjoy it, and then I can skip past it. Um, I'm not sure what I thought back in the day. Although I did fight for this CD single. It was one of the last ones on the shelf, if I recall. And I love the B-sides. We've got the Strange Engine and the Bell in the Sea live. Them versions are particularly good.
Yeah, that you
Anyway,
got
I
that.
digress.
See, I tell you, you got that in Volume Records in Sunderland, 'cause that's where we
I
got it.
did.
Because that's
We
the
were
only,
skiving
because
from
that was the,
college at the time.
yeah, because that was the only place we could actually pick it up, because nowhere else had it. And like you say,
Yeah,
that was even
yeah,
rarer than the Man of a Thousand Faces
yeah.
CD single.
I appreciate the song for what it is, and I don't dislike it. It fits on the album quite well when it's
Oh, it's
surrounded by
perfect
everything
fit on the
else.
album. Yeah.
yeah.
And I love Mark Kelly's keyboard solo in the middle. Love it. So hit and miss for me. I've got nothing against it, but I don't love it.
James?
I'm a bit hit and miss with it as well, to be honest. Sometimes when I listen to the album, I think, oh yeah, this is a good song, and then sometimes I listen and I think, yeah, it's all right. Um, Live, I think again, it's one of these Marillion songs. It's probably better live, and in with the sort of the crowd reaction and stuff like that. And yes, watching Mr. Kelly sweat when he knows the solo's coming. Um, so yeah, no, it's not something I would skip. But I think sort of it's there's better others. other better songs on the album.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I think maybe we can rehabilitate it like we're going to rehabilitate Hope for the Future. No, it's great. I think it's fun. It's great. It's a nice bit of catchy fluff that all the fans hate. It's got a nice little bit of acoustic guitar that runs all the way through it.
Yeah.
And there's a line in it. One of the lines where H sings, "Somehow be myself with you." I just always expect him to go Mark Kelly afterwards because it goes into solo. And I thought that Craig's talking about the wonky solo live. When it's funny because when I was listening to the new version, the keyboard solo sounded slightly wonky to me anyway. So maybe it was me.
There we go.
But yeah, no, I don't have, and it could have been worse. H wrote it when he was looking out the window of it was the dressing room at the Astoria, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
Looking
was.
at it could have been worse. He could have pissed out the window, couldn't he? And you would have, God knows what we would have got.
Oh, he could have been looking out the window and saw people kind of trying to figure out the top 10 carrier bags or something like that.
Is he going to introduce it next time as cat?
Yeah.
This is the catchy fluff song.
Yeah. I think it's all right. I don't think it's helped by what precedes it. Where it sits on the album, you've had Man of a Thousand Faces with the acoustic feel. You've had a very laid back One Fine Day, and then 80 Days doesn't really pick the momentum up, does it? If you put it somewhere else, I think it would be more highly regarded. It's all right. Like you say, Mark, I've seen it at gigs and enjoyed it, and he always tells a story, so he likes to tell the story now, doesn't he?
Yeah, that came bottom of the poll or whatever.
Yeah. The one he wrote for the fans that the fans don't like, I think is how he puts it, isn't it? Yeah.
It did get to number 38 in the independent charts, though, even if it didn't chart in the, top 100.
Cool.
And it didn't have a terrible video or anything to go along with it either, did it?
It didn't have a video.
Well, it was released in October as a single, so that must have been for not even for the tour, was it?
No, so I think caught at the end of the tour.
Yeah.
When they tour in Europe.
It says it was out in October. I thought it was out in September because I thought it was out around about my birthday. But I could be wrong on it. But yeah.
Okay.
I honestly thought it was out earlier than that.
All right. So from 80 Days, we go to another Hogarth lyric for Estonia.
Absolutely beautiful song. And I think the balalaika and everything in it, it's just one wish that I've got with this is the version on Friends from the Orchestra, which I think is absolutely corking. If they'd kept the balalaika in that version, it would have been possibly my favorite Marillion song. It might have even eclipsed The Great Escape for us if they kept the balalaika in the orchestral version. But I think it's just an absolutely stunning song, and it's just one of H's most profound lyrics.
Yeah.
And again, that's how they get the Death and Water.
Can you whip a balalaika out on stage, or is it because some of them are like tiny, aren't they? But some of them are like.
I don't think they've ever
done about balalaikas here, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not the size of Rodder's guitar that counts. It's how he uses it.
You're getting balalaika envy.
Mikey, what do you think of it?
It's up there, isn't it? It's just astounding musicianship and songwriting. It's as good as anything off Afraid of Sunlight, and I think it could have actually lived on that album, to be quite honest with you. Can't fault it. Loved it then, love it now.
Yeah.
I think musically, it's just so uplifting as well for the subject matter. Sorry, James, go for it.
That's all right. Well, nothing to add, really. Well, it's just a stunning song. And I think, getting back to what we were just saying about 80 Days, it's like, what's coming. You're listening to 80 Days, but you know what's coming. It's just emotional. It is one of, I think, on this album, along with TSE, is H's lyrics just form those pictures in your head around what is this guy going through, not H himself, but the guy who was on the Estonia disaster that talked to H about it. Some of the lyrics is just like heart rendering, but it's just beautiful. I mean, I have a very emotional connection with this song because I read out some of these lyrics at my dad's funeral as when I did his eulogy, because it's it sums up what everybody's thinking, and it's beautiful, beautiful song.
Yeah. Mark?
Yeah, it's just incredible, isn't it? It's and maybe that's why 80 Days is before it. You've got a little bit of fluff, then you've got this, and it's the funeral song, isn't it? I mean, I've played it at a funeral, haven't I? I think we played it at Pam's funeral, so
yeah.
It's just an amazing song. Love at the start there's this funky little bass line from Pete that I absolutely love. That no one leaves you when they live in your heart and mind. That's just absolute. Can I swear? That's just absolute fucking genius. Everybody can relate to the lyrics.
I think the music goes really well with that section because it's like an uplifting. It sort of goes up, doesn't it? It's like a key change or something that when he sings it, and then there's a really fits it so well.
There's a little bit at the end near the end where the last "No One Leaves You" comes in, and the whole thing just goes, it just like swells up, and it's amazing. And when we were in Stockholm for the Marillion weekend, we didn't realize that the little island that the venue's on, if you walk like 5 minutes down the road from the venue, it's where the Swedish memorial to the Estonia is.
Oh, wow.
So when we're at the gig, we had a little walk down, we stood there for a little bit and had a look around, and it's just amazing. But we did get one complaint about the deluxe version. We got a complaint that the artwork was inappropriate.
Sorry? What, for that track?
Yeah. You're all going to look at the art, everybody. Look at the art.
I haven't got it in. Yeah, I haven't got it in sort of arm's length. What?
It's a C.
With a sinking engine.
Yeah. Okay.
What
we'll
time's
back to that in a minute.
What time's the track actually in? Because it's got this tempo to it, which undulates like waves to me. Is it waltz time? It's not waltz time, is it? There's something about it. It's just you get. I
think you're on the wrong podcast, Mikey. If you're expecting,
you want the Andre Rio podcast.
Yeah. I tell you what I like about it. I can't tell you what time signature it's in, but I don't know, mate. If anybody listening to this knows, please let us know. Oh, we should have asked Ian.
I was going to say,
Ian. Well, you've all had your say on Estonia. There's not much I can add. It's an absolute stone cold Marillion classic now, isn't it? As you guys have said, a lot of fans have it on their funeral list or have it on their list when they lose a loved one. It's one of H's most heartrending lyrics and just fantastic.
Musically, it is uplifting, though. That's the whole thing.
It builds nicely, but it's not. Again, you look at what's come before it. There's no fall to the floor on this, is there? Anywhere?
No.
It's TSE, An Accidental Man, but not in.
Yeah. Anyhow, the opposite of fall to the floor is track 5, which is Memory of Water.
We've got a missing Rothery here. Lesson he's not on it. It was never a song that I particularly loved. I always really liked the big beat version of it. But I think as I've been listening to the remix, it's grown on us a lot more. I mean, H's vocals on it are absolutely stunning. He's really just it goes to show with the different songs how much range he's got and depth he's got in his voice and why we all love him so much. But yeah, I've got a new appreciation for this song now, and I think it's yeah. Is it Helmer
Mikey?
lyric, this one?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mikey?
I've always loved it, and I think especially following Estonia, you've had this distraught emotional song that you've gone through, and you come out of the other side of it, and you've got Memory of Water. And I remember listening to the album late one night, and being in floods of tears after Estonia, and the Memory of Water just kind of washes over you, and just it's almost like a palate cleanser.
Mm.
Um, but it's no less effective in itself. Um, and just because it's stripped back so bare and so raw, it's just as powerful to me. And I think those two together could never be separated. They're just absolute perfect. Love the big beat mix, yes. But on this album, I think it's very often overlooked. Um, it is what it is, and it's there for a reason. And I love it. I really do.
James?
I when I first heard the album, and I think I got it similar time to Ice Cream Genius. And hearing Memory of Water, I always initially I thought this is an H outtake. This is something that was on Ice Cream Genius because it's got mirror of Better Dreams and Deep Water and that sort of feel. But it's only when I start digging in the background and sort of when you see when they did write it and during the AOS sessions, because it came out pretty much complete for the AOS sessions, you think, oh no, we're completely wrong on that one. I think for me, it's had a bit of a renaissance with the remix. I think it's a little bit of a relief after Estonia, just the heaviness of the song, not the song itself. Um, as even H says, what's the lyrics about? No idea.
No.
Um, I think, I think sort of listening to the remix, I sort of sort of listened to it more and thought, yeah, no, it's a good song.
Mark?
Yeah, not a huge fan.
Really?
Yeah, it's passes us by a little bit. I think what Mikey and James are saying though, I think I'm going to have to go back and listen to it and maybe give it a few more goes. But I do love the big beat version.
Yeah, I
But
do as well.
I'm not a massive fan of the original. So
I get a feeling it was put on there because they were running out of time and they didn't
yeah.
have the additional material.
But I think what Mikey says is, like it's like a palate cleanser. Maybe go back and listen to it again in that context, it might do the trick. Oh,
I think it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. Just the whole arrangement is different. As much as I love Rothers, he's not on this at all. It floored me when I first heard it, and the remix is even better. Um, it's a wonderful track, and the big beat. I love the big beat because basically Rothers is soloing for 6 minutes and Ian's having a heart attack at the back, but it's still great. It's still great. But no, I think Memory of Water is fantastic. Um, Picking the pace up a little bit then. Track 6, An Accidental Man, another Helmet lyric.
I was never a great fan of this on like originally, but again, it's another song that's grown, and I just kind of lately I've not been able to get the riff out of my head for some reason. It's just been stuck in there like a proper earworm, and again, I've with the remix, I've given it a lot more attention than I've ever really done it before. I've never skipped it, and to be fair, this is one of the few Marillion albums where I actually listen to it 100% through, and I never skip any tracks on it. I'm a bit funny with that. Not don't do that with that many of them. This is definitely one that I can play it all the way through. But no, it's a good lyric, good riffs on it, and I'm enjoying it more now than I did, 26 years ago.
Mikey?
Pretty much the same as Craig, to be completely honest with you. I've never really liked it. Um, I would again, when it comes to the album, it's a very romantic album for me. It's a summing up of a very specific time in my life. Um, and that song was always part of it because it was on the album. There's part of it which I absolutely love, but I don't know. I don't know whether it was played around with too much between AOS to here, but it just doesn't quite fit on the album for me. Don't have a major issue with it. Just never really been a great fan of it.
Okay. James?
I'm the opposite. It was one of my favorites from the beginning when I first listened to it. I thought it was coming out of Memory of Water and getting into this, and like, it picks up the pace.
Yeah.
And that beginning, that riff and Pete's bass coming in, echoing the vocals and stuff like that. Yeah, really, really liked it. And I think hearing it live, it's gone better and better. I like the sort of the bit with the orchestra when they do the separated out in the middle of it.
Yeah,
it's a bit of fun. But I think it's a rocker, and it's got very much police overtones.
yeah.
You hear sort of, there's bits on it that has been like the fade out or the ending of Message in a Bottle, sending out an SOS bit. It's got quite a lot of sort of similarities with that. I prefer it to the AOS version.
I think the AOS version is brilliant.
Brilliant, yeah,
Absolutely
absolutely.
brilliant.
I totally agree with you, Craig. Yeah.
I don't dislike the AOS version. I just think this is rawer, more up tempo, and I think it is a nice change on the album.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it sort of sets up what comes after this. With the end of with TSA, I know another song comes in the middle.
It does,
but
yeah.
we're ignoring that at the moment.
Yeah.
But the band seem to have got back into playing it again, because they didn't play it for absolutely ages, and then it was about 2005 they brought it back into the set, and then it was in there for quite a while since, and they bring it back, and I think it's a nice sort of change in the set when they do play it.
Yeah. Okay. Mark?
Same as Craig, I think. I never really had a great appreciation for it until I watched the documentary, and I thought H's comments in the documentary were, really interesting, explaining a little bit what it's about, all these damaged men that end up running the country and so on. So yeah, I like it a lot more than I used to. I think it's great live. I've always enjoyed it live.
Yeah.
Not so much the studio version. This is another one. I got asked to do a video for this, but I could never come up with something, and some of it always made me think of Will Hay movies. And I did a mashup of Accidental Man and Will Hay movies, but I just couldn't get it to work, and they would never have used it anyway. So, but yeah.
Time for a rethink, eh?
Yeah, maybe.
Have another go at it.
Charles Hawtrey.
Charles Hawtrey into Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with Accidental Man. It's an okay track. Unlike James, I really do like the AOS version. I think it's just got a bit more, I don't know, it's slightly more rocky, I think, the AOS version.
Musically, it's very different as well.
Although I love the Police, but I do know what you mean about that, the Stuart Copeland type vibe about this version. It's not a bad thing. It's very different to what follows it.
Yes. Isn't it? Didn't Mark Kelly prefer the AOS version? That's what he got a bit down on AOS.
For AOS, wasn't he? Yeah. I'm with Mark.
But actually, when they wrote both versions was on the same day during the AOS session, so it wasn't a case of they came back into TSE and rewrote it again. They just went, right, we're going to start on this version and work our way through. So they did go through quite a few different changes of, as I said previously, going from the sort of lower tempo, almost halftime chorus to the up tempo verses, because that's very different Marillion. I don't know if there's many other songs in the Marillion canon that have that sort of structure.
No, absolutely. Okay, come on then.
Boo.
Future.
Marion, your sister.
Oh, you did it. I thought it was going to be me, the one, the tone. Tin helmet on time. Here we go. This song is H in a nutshell. This is his stamp completely. It's his idea, it's his and it's and you know what? I've always liked Hope for the Future. I've never had a problem with it. It is so far off the bloody wall for a Marillion song that it's absolutely unbelievable. And the hill that I am going to die on as we speak at the minute, I think it is by far the best track in the remix. What they've
Yeah,
done to the song there, it's absolutely astounding. It's given the song a complete new lease of life, and it sounds brilliant. And I will defend this song to the hilt because I think it's great fun, and it's the H's message in there. Everything. No, yeah, I'm I'm with it 100%. Yes, it might be some middle-aged Brits trying to do kind of calypso and all that kind of stuff. Just go with it. That's the whole point of it. Just go with it.
Have you finished,
But yeah,
Mikey?
Okay, well, if you're going to nail Craig to the cross, I'll be on the one next to him. Um, I absolutely love this. I thought it was just inspired back in the day. I just thought it was so brave of them to put something like this on a Marillion album. I completely agree with Craig. The remix has given it an extra dimension and edge. It's got more Mexican whooping llamas than you can count. It's
Viva!
just brilliant. Um, there's just so many more layers to it, and like, I mean, what can you say? I mean, I honestly believe that if it hadn't been for Ice Cream Genius, this probably wouldn't be on the album. If you listen to something like Really Like, it's you can see where he's kind of riffed off it and gone off on a tangent. And hey, look, it got on the album, so it ain't all that bad, is it?
This is the start of the Castle years where they had to put an album out each year.
yeah, but if all
I'm
if the
not sure that this track would have been released.
They could have put a six-track album
yeah,
out and it
yeah,
still
but
would have
The
sold.
EMI years, for example.
if the rest of them hated it, it would never have got on the album.
Yeah, you think?
Uh,
Hmm.
James, what do you think?
Rod's favourite, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, I really like half of it, and that's the first half. I think it's got a really nice bluesy that sort of start with the guitar and everything, and then it changes. When I first heard it, I thought, "What the fuck is this?" Um, because and then especially what follows it, that juxtaposition is well done. Actually, it's sort of, I think the album sequence is almost really tongue in cheek. It's like, yeah, we're going to have sort of reggae stuff, and then we're going to hit you with 17 and a bit minutes of prog.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the reason it got through the thing was time. It was the last song they worked on for TSE before they recorded. So I think that's probably why it sneaked in. And there was a version of it with ANOS. What was it called? Message of Hope was the working title, and they had a version of that with not so au fait second half, because Rothers said he really liked. I think I was, if I'm right on the documentary, there was a version of it he really liked. If you've got the making of TSC, and if you listen to the beginning of Hope for an Intro on the Blu-ray, that bit of music at the start is the Barclay James Harvest version that Rothers really liked. And so when they didn't include it, that's partly, I think, why he doesn't like the song. But again, it's sort of when they play it live, and I've heard it a handful of times, it's a bit of fun, isn't it? It's a bit of, and I agree with both you, Craig, and Mikey, that the remix has done wonders for it. It's got that real sort of spatial warmth and brings a lot of things in it that you didn't hear on the original. So
Bounce. It's got
yes.
some bounce to it.
So I think we'll leave it there.
Mark?
Marillion, your sister. Love it. I'm with Craig 100%. I've always liked it, and this version is just. I got no idea what Mike's done to it. I need to ask him because I really want to know. It's reborn, I think. It's just fantastic. Where they didn't get away with it before, they get away with it now.
Yeah.
I think. maybe there's a bit more instrumentation, and he's brought some of the
Yeah,
instrumentation a bit further forward, and that thing with like the snake charmer, that sounds a lot
Yeah,
further forward in
yeah.
the mix. There's a great bass line in it. I've got no idea what the lyrics mean. I mean, what the fuck's a Rosicrucian Pope? Has anybody Googled it? Oh,
That's a t-shirt idea, isn't it?
yeah, okay.
What the fuck?
What the fuck's a Rosicrucian Pope?
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's fantastic. I've always liked it.
Okay.
I
Well,
think Mike has used a lot of the instrumentation that was on the backing tracks that were
Okay,
buried in the mix because he's done the same for Man of a Thousand Faces towards the end. There's
yeah.
a lot. I've heard the backing tracks, and there was a lot of that sort of stuff in there. But anyway, sorry, John.
no, I don't have an issue with Hope for the Future, to be honest with you. The only issue I have got in what Craig has said is that this is the most improved remix. I don't think it is. Well, I don't have an issue with it. Um,
The most improved track of
the most improved track on the
yeah.
remixes, I don't think it is. But then again, I've listened to the surround mix and Craig hasn't bothered, so we'll talk
Two
about that.
years and
Well,
half
I
a
think
day.
I
Well,
still
I'm
think
not sure you've got two ears of some of the stuff you said tonight, but I
I
think you've
still
got one, yeah.
I still think it's the most improved track on the surround mix as well. So
I don't, but we can talk about that later.
I think we need Harry Hill in tonight.
But I don't
I
have an
think
issue with
what
Hope for the Future. It's good fun, and when they played at the convention, the crowd have really got into it, haven't they? Because they
Yeah.
know about all the stuff.
yeah. I remember on the TSE tour when the Freaks mailing list was still on the go, some idiot suggested, "Oh, let's all bring plastic bananas to the gig, and when they start playing Hope for the Future, we'll throw the plastic bananas at them." Oh yeah, could have put somebody's eye out.
I think Gizanana compared to Gizabuns a little bit.
Did Barnes miss that by a few years and turned it
I was
into a
going to
rhino?
say, you immediately thought of Barnes, yeah, but didn't say the word inflatable, did he? So, okay. All right, then. This strange engine. Go on then, Craig.
It's understandable why it was voted, wasn't it? Wasn't it this and Script when they did that thing for the convention years ago that it was joint top.
Allegedly.
Popular music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was joint top.
All right,
And
Mark, you got
and
something in your eye there.
I got something in my throat there. Sorry.
and it's just one of the Marillion all-time classic songs. And it just shows that it's been in heavy rotation in the set list, ever since it came out. There's not a couple of years go by where it's not in a set list, and it's so autobiographical with
Overplayed.
H. Overplayed. You'll
Overplayed.
be you'll be complaining about Neverland next.
No.
But come on, it's got one of others, finest solos in it, and the second solo
Which
in
one's
it,
that?
and the second solo.
Who
And
came?
it's just, sublime. And they say H's life story in 15 minutes. And, you know, I, there's not going to be one person on this pod and one person around who'll actually slag it off. Guaranteed.
Mikey?
love it. It reminds me of what Marillion were almost. It was like them paying homage to themselves in certain ways. The way it's like different movements that have been brought together to create this 17, 18 minute epic. It's beautiful, it's understated in parts, it's powerful to the 10th degree in parts. It's just I don't know, there's something about it which sets it apart from everything else they've ever done, yet still sounds familiar to everything else they've ever done. So yeah, it's always been in, say, my top 10 Marillion all-time favorite tracks for me. It's absolutely fantastic.
Cool. James?
It's a great song. I'm not going to argue with that. I think it sort of encompasses bits of, as Mike was saying, the old Marillion, sort of the hark back to almost, back into the 80s, but also Brave. But it also encompasses bits of the new Marillion. You can see some of the bits where they were going, um, and it has that sublime solo in it, which is just stunning. It seems to be they need to play at the convention because they seem to do it every convention. I think it's sort of become a staple. Um, and Pete's, I mean, I used to love the Pete bass solo at the beginning when they played live, and the lyric is very close to home for H. And I think you can see him when he performs it going through that and that emotional delivery, and especially towards the end, what on the boat and everything. It is just a stunning, stunning song and one of the high points of the album.
Mark?
Yeah, what everybody else has said. I mean, what can we say? Basically, no, but I mean, I'll get to my point in a minute. But it's probably in most people's top 5 Marillion tracks. I mean, it's just incredible. Personal to H, but evocative from the start, and to be honest, very personal to me as well. I don't know, you guys know that my dad's suffering with dementia at the minute, but a lot of the lyrics of that song could be about my childhood. My dad was in the Merchant Navy. He even rode a BSA motorbike, same as H's dad. When I was born, he had to come home and get a proper job. He couldn't go sailing around the world anymore. And H says a few things about guilt and stuff in the documentary, and I've had a bit of that from time to time as well. But it's a song that just means so much to me. I mean, H's dad telling tall tales of Montego Bay. My dad used to come back and tell me stories about going to a football match in Argentina and getting tear gassed by the army, stuff like that.
Doesn't really scan in a lyric, that does
No,
it?
no, it doesn't
It's
really. But and they were kind enough to let me put my dad in the video.
Oh, brilliant.
I just love it. And that guitar solo
Okay.
as well. And
Yeah.
I think Mark's Widley solo is just as good, to be honest. I love that just as much. And I don't think some people say it's a bit patchwork, but
That's what I was.
I don't,
Don't steal my thunder, but yes.
not for me. Just an amazing track from start to finish.
Okay. Well, I like a challenge, and
Go
Craig
on then.
challenged me to say something negative about it. I think this is the start of the strange transitions between sections that we now sort of everyday occurrences in Marillion music. I love the song for what it is, and it is an out and out Marillion classic, but I think some of the transitions aren't the best. They just jar a little bit, but it's worth it for the payoff of the lyric and the Blue Pain solo. I realize that this won't be a popular comment, but it's just my opinion. Everyone's got one. We've heard it so much over the years that you get used to that, and what used to jar doesn't jar so much anymore. But when I first heard it, it really did feel a bit like sort of glued together.
What do
It
you
was
think of
put,
this? Oh, sorry, go on, Gabe.
I was going to say it was put together a bit like when I've mentioned previously when I think Pete and Mark and Ian and the rest of the band, when they were going through of what ideas to put together for starting points for TSE. During the AOS sessions, there were so many different jams with H singing the lyric over because he so desperately wanted to use it and just couldn't pull it together for AOS. And so there's a comp of all the bits. They sort of almost like a jigsaw trying to put it together with the lyrics to seem to work. And so they had a version before they even started working on the songs that pretty much mapped out what this song was going to be. So I think it was always going to have sections that didn't flow. But for me, that's when they say, oh, it's, and they say, people say it's more prevalent these days. But for me, Marillion's always had that. There's some bits they've ironed out better, but if you even go back to stuff like Fugazi, there's gaps, there's transitions of things. There's some are more easier to flow through than others, but they've always done that. Even back to Grendel, there's got lots of different sections, so they've always written that way. It's just sometimes they work smooth and other ways they don't. So I'm not a big sort of advocate to go, oh, this is how they do it lately. I think they've always done it.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think the transitions were more seamless prior to this. I mean, Mike, the way they work with Mike now creates some of how they sound now. And that's not meant as a criticism for Mike, because it's really not. He does a lot of legwork in pulling these ideas together. And sometimes they work seamlessly and sometimes they don't. But that's okay. I'm on here, I'm probably the biggest prog fan on the podcast, but James aside, maybe. But that's the beautiful thing about a prog song. If you don't like this section, something else is coming up in 90 seconds, so it's going to be different.
So what I was
sorry, go on, Craig.
What I was going to say is with this. So, what do you think of the version with Friends from the Orchestra with the missing line reinserted in?
It doesn't. I mean, I like it because H feels it's more complete, so that's cool.
Yeah, if you don't like the transitions, that or whatever, that line's not going to make a blind bit of difference to it, is it? Not really.
It makes the story more complete. Which is fine.
I think that lyric was part of the original writing of when he did Stream of Conscious. But I think somebody asked Lucy on the Facebook a week or so ago, and said, why wasn't it inserted back into the remix? Well, it was never there. I've never heard a version of them when they're working through the song, when they're writing it, with that lyric in it.
Yeah,
so I think it's
that's
part
what
of the original lyric script, but wasn't there. Sorry, Mark.
Sorry. That's actually, I asked Mike about it because when I was going over the artwork for the deluxe edition, I think it didn't have the line in, and I said, is the line not being put back in? And he said no, because exactly the reason you've given, basically. So
because in the lyric book the line's taken out, whereas it was obviously included in the original lyric book.
Yeah.
Can I just add to what I've said? Having said all that, it's the most proggy thing on the album. So, isn't it?
Yeah,
is it though? Is it?
What, Hope for the Future?
Hope for the Future's proggy because it's
because it's what?
Because it's not it's
Rock
not
calypso.
constrained by traditional rock music or whatever. So
it's not constrained
more
by
it's more progressive, isn't it?
Okay.
But yeah, I mean it's a different sounding song to the rest of the album, but it fits on the album, even though it's not like acoustic like a lot of the other stuff. I think the album does flow well for me, and it's quite eclectic, and in our usual occasional genius or bollocks, it gets a genius from me all the way through. I would say actually every song on it is genius.
Sorry, that's not how genius.
That's not how it works. No,
that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Genius
you want to play
bollocks,
Genius or
please.
Bollocks? We'll play Genius or Bollocks.
Yeah, track by track.
Track by track.
Go on then.
We won't start with you because we all know your answers.
Oh, just edit my answer in. I'll just sit quiet for the next 2 minutes.
Genius or Bollocks then? Man of a Thousand Faces. James.
Genius.
Mark.
Genius.
Mikey.
Genius.
Faye.
Already answered. Genius.
Genius. Yeah, it's genius. I'll go with that. One Fine Day. James.
Genius.
Mark.
Genius.
Mikey.
Genius.
Faye.
Genius.
So you'll have to turn it up a bit when you're editing.
Genius. The whole lot.
Genius. 80 Days. James.
Ooh.
You can only have one or the other.
For the new version, genius. For the old version, bollocks.
Okay. Mark.
Genius.
Mikey.
Bollocks.
Faye is a genius.
Yeah, especially when Mark Kelly gets his keyboard right, then it gets a genius.
I'd have to say genius. Estonia. James.
Genius.
Mark.
Double genius.
Mikey.
Genius.
Faye, genius.
Quadruple genius.
And genius from me. Memory of Water, James.
Genius.
Mark.
Bollocks.
Mikey.
Genius.
Faye.
Genius. And the big beat mix, double genius.
I've already said it's genius for me. Accidental Man, James.
Genius.
Mark.
Genius.
Mikey.
Bollocks.
Faye.
Genius. And the EOS version, genius.
Genius for me. Hope for the future, James.
If it stops at the acoustic guitar, it'd have been
It
genius.
doesn't. You can't.
But it's not,
What
so
is
it's
it?
bollocks.
Thank you very much. Mark.
Triple genius.
Mikey.
Mexican whooping genius.
Marillion, your sister.
Faye.
For the remix, quadruple genius.
No. For the original.
Genius.
The
Genius,
original.
Genius.
Bollocks. It's bollocks. TSE, James.
Gold-plated genius.
Fair enough. Mark.
Genius.
Mikey.
Genius.
Craig.
Gold-plated Latin and genius. Man, I get a Star Trek reference in. There you go.
And genius from me. So sorry about that, but Craig did start that.
I started it, didn't I?
You did. So, anything else you want to say about this strange engine?
It's a no-skip disc for me.
It's where the brown got turned up to 11.
Yeah. That brown sure does get around.
I like it. Yeah.
It was a very brave album, and I think it gave us a good head start on what was yet to come.
Yeah, it's a taster of what's coming because they started to expand their musical palette, even through Brave and Afraid of Sunlight. But this one was sort of, we're not afraid to put left turns in and 180s and 90 degrees shifts and open to different types of music. And you can hear that on radiation.com.
Definitely.
How do you think EMI, if they had stayed with EMI, how do you think EMI, hypothetically, would have thought of this album or would have reacted with this album? Do you think EMI would have been happy with it?
Probably not.
No, because it's so
Chuck
left.
it in pool.
Well, if they weren't happy with AOS, what are they going to do with TSE?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The A&R guy might have had a heart attack.
Yeah,
but I think there's a lot of commercial stuff on there. It's not as if the songs aren't, quite catchy and playable songs.
Well, we might have had a better video for Man of a Thousand Faces if they stayed with AMI, possibly.
Yeah.
But coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
Indeed.
But overall, it's a hit from Planet Marzipan, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
So we spent an hour talking about the album and the music, folks. So at this point, this is the end of part 1 of this strange engine. So I would just like to thank James Levey.
Hey, all.
Mikie Kay.
Toodles.
Mark Kennedy.
Thank you.
Craig. Hope for the future. Kennedy.
Marion.
Your sister, Marion.
All that remains to be said is it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Take care.
Don't marry your sister.
Yeah, don't marry your sister.
Look out
Stay
for part 2
alive.
next week.
Thanks for listening to Planet Marzipan Podcast. Please like and subscribe from whichever platform you get your podcasts from. You can contact us at planetmarzipanpodcast@gmail.com and check out Marillion.com, fishmusic.scot for all the good stuff.